Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Timothy Knowles, and I have the dubious distinction of trying to propel us through the next 84 minutes. We're here today for two reasons. First and foremost, to hear from three of the nation's most influential public servants about how to improve the quality of urban life, and particularly how to use evidence and make evidence a part of what fuels our cities to make them healthier, more interesting, and more productive places. And second, as you may have read in the local newspapers, we're going to share news of a significant University of Chicago undertaking that we are embarking upon, designed to improve the quality of life here in our city and in other cities across our world. Before I go any further, I want to recognize the presence of Secretary Julian Castro and the Mayor of Philadelphia, Michael Nutter, and our Mayor, Rahm Emanuel. And on matters electoral, if you're from Chicago and you don't know this, you should leave. April 7th, the city needs your vote. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce the president of the University of Chicago, a person of remarkable vision, an extraordinary leader, and as dedicated as anyone to ensuring the university is a place that creates knowledge that has impact in Chicago and in cities across our country and our world. President Zimmer.
Thank you very much, Tim. I'm very pleased that so many of you were able to be here with us this afternoon for this program. You represent the civic leadership of the city of Chicago and beyond, and your engagement is going to be crucial for us as we work to develop a new model for how to help cities work more effectively. I'm especially grateful that Julian Castro, the United States Secretary for Housing and Urban Development, could join us to share his thoughts on the importance of evidence-based urban policies. Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who's been a wonderful partner for the University of Chicago in the work that we're going to discuss today, as well as so much of the work that we've been doing in the city, is here with us, of course, and he will participate in a panel with Mayor Nutter of Philadelphia. We're very happy to have Mayor Nutter back in Chicago and back visiting the university. As a native of New York City and as a scholar who spent the bulk of my career at the University of Chicago, I believe that cities are the most exciting and dynamic places in the world. They have tremendous concentrations of talent and innovation. Young people with great ambition are drawn to cities in order to make an impact. Anchor institutions, including companies, universities, cultural institutions, and foundations, come together with resources and civic will to drive improvement and growth. But as we all know, there is another side to cities. With large concentrations of people come magnified challenges. How do we ensure a good education for all of our young people? How can we be sure those students will graduate into decent jobs? How do we provide families with good housing, with reliable and sustainable energy supply in a safe neighborhood? How do we make certain that lives are not cut short by violence, pollution, and poor health? In short, how can we make cities work better? I'm here today to announce a major new initiative of the University of Chicago that will help answer these questions and enable our partners in the city and beyond to implement more effective policies. Today we are launching the University of Chicago Urban Labs. The Urban Labs will conduct rigorous research on concrete policies and practices to improve the lives of urban residents in Chicago and cities around the world, and of course across the United States. We need to know what works based on data and based on evidence. And when we find approaches that work, we need to be able to replicate them in other cities so we can have the greatest positive impact. The Urban Labs will build on the successful approach pioneered by the University of Chicago Crime Lab and the Urban Education Lab, both of which have received critical support from Chicago-based foundations. Crime Lab partnered with a local nonprofit, Youth Guidance, to rigorously evaluate its Becoming a Man program and was able to show that this program reduced violent crime arrests by 44%. The Education Lab found that Match Education's high-intensity mathematics tutoring program propelled students up to 2 years ahead. Together, these labs have begun to generate compelling evidence about concrete ways to improve the lives of at-risk urban youth, even when they are already in their teens. On the strength of this research, both of these programs have been expanded by Mayor Emanuel in Chicago and are being adopted by cities nationwide. In addition to tackling crime and education, the Urban Labs will now launch 3 new labs, addressing challenges in urban health, energy and environment, and poverty. These labs will each be led by a distinguished faculty member from the University of Chicago, whom you will meet in a moment. They will work in their own areas of expertise, but because these problems are complex and interrelated, they will also work together at the intersection of issues like health, education, and jobs. And very importantly for their potential impact, they will undertake their research projects in partnership with cities and with community organizations. The goal will be action-oriented research that can inform policymaking and translate directly into real-time impact. This work would not be possible without the trust of city leaders who give us access to data, to people, and to processes. Mayor Emanuel has made Chicago a leader in this regard. The work would also not be possible without private support. I'm immensely grateful to the Pritzker Foundation for their gift of $10 million to provide seed funding for this effort. Thanks to their gift, Tim Knowles has been appointed the inaugural Pritzker Director of the Urban Labs. This early funding allows us to launch the Urban Labs today, but it also allows us to create a policy innovation challenge to select organizations who are our potential partners. I believe that this combination of rigorous faculty-led research and direct engagement with city and community partners will set our work apart. I want to end by answering the question, why? Why is it important to study cities and make them better as opposed to all the other topics that we could work on? And why is the University of Chicago the right place to lead this type of work? Cities are now growing faster in the United States and around the world than at any time in human history. Today, more than 80% of Americans live in urban areas. More than half the world's population lives in cities, and that number is growing by 60 million people per year. By 2050, the world's urban population is projected to be around 6.5 billion, almost double of what it is today. So it is more important than ever before that we find solutions to the challenges inherent in cities and that these solutions be scalable. The University of Chicago has a long history in urban engagement. We were founded in 1890 through the work of civic leaders in Chicago. We are of Chicago, and we are made better and stronger by the relationships we have built all across the city. We also believe that universities, and particularly the University of Chicago, are critical partners for solving complicated long-term challenges. By our nature, we have a long-term horizon. We are able to work across boundaries to understand the interplay between science, culture, policy, economics, and human behavior. And particularly here at the University of Chicago, we have enormous expertise at analyzing huge streams of data from cities and putting that data to work for everyone's benefit. The University of Chicago is committed to this work. We believe this commitment is part of being a great research university located in a great city. I thank you for your support and your partnership as we launch the Urban Labs. We could not do this important work without you, so thank you. So I would now like to introduce Tom Pritzker, Chairman and CEO of the Pritzker Organization and a trustee of the University of Chicago. He is going to talk about why he is engaged with Urban Labs and this new approach to action-oriented research. Tom?
Thank you very much, Bob. Since this is about the University of Chicago, I thought it would be most appropriate to start with a question. How can we have an impact on society? That should be the question that each of us asks not only of ourselves, but also of the organizations in which we work, whether it's a university, a commercial enterprise, a government, or an individual. How are we making a difference? Last night, Margot and I hosted a dinner with Bob Zimmer and leaders of each of the labs in UChicago Urban Labs. Margot's deeply involved in this initiative, so she drove the conversation. As is always the case with U of C people, it was fun, interesting, and lively discussion, but the common theme was interesting. It was the passion for making an impact on the urban environment on a national or even a global scale. As many of you know, our family's story is an American story. My great-grandfather was little more than a street urchin when he arrived in Chicago at the age of 10. He sold newspapers on the corner of Randolph and Wells. His parents were deeply impoverished, yet soon after his mother arrived in Chicago, she started what she called a nickel society. It required its members to donate a nickel per week to helping others. This at a time when her children could go days without a meal. So let me connect the dots here. Our family has a long and deeply embedded culture of giving back. It's not an obligation. We see it as an opportunity. We do this not only by writing checks, we do this also by spending our time and energy on projects of passion. UChicago Urban Labs is one such effort. It's a huge opportunity for the city of Chicago and for the University of Chicago to have an impact on those who are often neediest in our society. As you've heard, the idea is to help inform evidence-driven policy across 5 key challenges in the urban environment: education, poverty, health, crime, and environment and energy. If we can achieve our ambitions, we'll not only improve our own city of Chicago, but Chicago will stand at the center of excellence in understanding how to address urban challenges. Our ambition for Urban Labs is big. It's to have impact at a scale. In our experience, the key element for success of a startup like this is leadership. The Pritzker Foundation chose to provide the seed money for this project largely because we believe that between President Zimmer and Mayor Emanuel, we have leaders who have the vision and understanding to partner in the success of this initiative. So let me close by thanking not only the lab leaders who are here with you today, but in particular to thank Bob and Ram for having such passion about making a difference. Thank you very much.
I just want to acknowledge that Alderman Leslie Harrison is here from the 3rd Ward. Welcome. Thank you, Tom. Very briefly, I would like to introduce the directors of each of our urban labs. Their bios are at your places, so I'm going to do an experiment and tell you something that's not there. Brace yourselves. Michael Greenstone, Michael, will lead the Energy and Environment Lab. Michael is a professor of economics and has a remarkable track record ensuring his work influences energy and environmental policy and practice globally. He is apparently a very good basketball player, no doubt part of the reason the President of the United States asked him to serve as his chief economic advisor. Marianne Bertrand, where's Marianne? There's Marianne. Is a labor economist from Booth and will lead the Poverty Lab. Marianne has already got more projects in the pipeline than we can count. Here in Chicago, she's been to Los Angeles, she's been to New York. Here, she's collaborating with the city to design and evaluate new approaches to creating jobs as part of Mayor Emanuel's efforts to expand job training and job experience for young people citywide. David Meltzer. David is a very popular, apparently very popular professor at the Harris School and with the biological sciences. David will lead our health lab. He's also an actual doctor. He has actual patients. And he comes to meetings with his stethoscope. I'm not kidding. And for me, as director of these urban labs, this is reassuring, for the labs are a startup, and so therefore I worry, as you would, about providing adequate health care. Finally, Jens may have arrived. Jens Ludwig is the city of Chicago's true partner in crime. Jens started the crime lab and later then the urban education lab, and it's his work to make Chicago safer and deliver schooling more effectively, which is really a primary motivator for creating urban labs as a whole. Jens is a pathfinder in the best of senses, bringing evidence to bear to change people's lives at scale. My colleagues are not only superstars in their fields, but what excites me most is to a person, they're dedicated to working hand in hand with policymakers and practitioners. And to a person, they have an unambiguous commitment to impact, to echo Tom. We're also today launching an announcement within the broader announcement, and that is something that we're calling the Urban Labs Innovation Challenge. We're inviting community partners to propose their best ideas for improving the quality of life in Chicago. Specifically, we're soliciting ideas for reducing poverty, for improving health, and improving energy use and the environment. Winners will receive up to $1 million to implement their ideas. The labs will rigorously evaluate their success, and working in partnership with the city will help to scale up the things that matter most. We believe this kind of competition can be catalytic. The Crime Lab's first competition led to Becoming a Man, which, thanks to the mayor, now serves young people across the city and is being adopted by cities across the country. Just last month, the Crime Lab announced its second competition, and it invited proposals for the best ideas to make our city safer. And on Friday, just last Friday, we had received 227 proposals. The challenge we're announcing today aims to inspire the same level of ingenuity and engagement and help Chicago discover new ways to create jobs, to improve the environment, and make Chicago healthier for all of us.